Someone has asked me about toxic family members and how to deal with a toxic family member who ignores the person and is mean to the person. So if someone ignores you, then first of all you can let them ignore you. If you actually let them ignore you, then it's not your problem anymore, and you won't feel as if you are a victim of it. You could ask why they are ignoring you. There's nothing wrong with asking, and if they tell you, then you'll get the answer, and if they don't want to tell you, then that's up to them. I think the main thing to see is that it's not really your issue if they haven't communicated something to you. If they were upset with you, it isn't your issue to try to fix them, because you can't control how they feel. You can't control their emotions or their thoughts. Sometimes we think that it's our fault. I think often with family, if this family member is maybe older than you, maybe a parent, then often if they are upset, they will tell you that it is, or they will believe that it is because of you, as if you've given them some suffering and they have to suffer it because of you. But no one, you're not giving them any thoughts to suffer or emotions to suffer. So if they have an issue with you, it's kind of up to them to address that if they want to. And if they don't want to, sometimes people just kind of enjoy the suffering of it, enjoy the animosity. But I'm really not sure the details of your situation, so I'm kind of guessing. So if they're mean to you, I don't know what that would entail, if that just means they're rude or they don't speak to you very nicely. So since you messaged, then probably whatever is happening now isn't really working, so you probably find that you internally resist how they behave. But either you feel you can't say anything or act, or you do say something and you do act, but it doesn't work. So in both cases, rather than resisting them being mean, let them be exactly as they are. Don't even call it mean, because the idea of mean is an extra idea that's added onto the situation. If you allow them to be exactly as they are without calling them anything, then you might be able to detect that it's not as personal as it appears. It's an energy that lives in them that is kind of dark or negative or closed or resentful in some way. And it's an energy that is activated and acts through them. So it's not like they're consciously trying to be that way or consciously choosing to be that way. They kind of get sucked into the energy, and the energy takes them over, basically. And you don't have to think that, but that's just, you can naturally see it if you let them be, if you're not so quick to believe your own mental stream or your own reactions to them. The reactions and the thoughts that you experience are fine, there's nothing wrong with them, but they can add an extra layer of suffering to yourself, or add a resistance to yourself that actually prevents any space in the situation, prevents for any intelligence or kind of flowing action if it's necessary. So if you let them be as they are, You'll notice as well that you'll be much more free of it internally. You won't be taking their burden on. You won't be so dependent on how they are to be internally free of it. See if you want anything from them. We usually have unconscious wants of people, especially family members, like they should be nice, or they should understand me, or they should only have good feelings, or they shouldn't resent me. So then if they do have these experiences, say if they do resent you for something, then it creates a conflict in ourselves because we believe that they shouldn't be like that, and we want them to be different to how they are. And again, that creates another layer of quite useless suffering for ourselves. And that's another thing you can notice when you experience resistance or the inner emotional pain that seems to be coming from something outside of you. See that it comes from inside of you, and see if it's helping. See what it does, what its actual purpose is. So for example, if I could see a hammer being used, I could see that hammer hitting a nail and being used as a useful tool. So your own inner kind of resistance and pain around this situation, see what that does. In the same way that you'd look at the hammer working, see what this inner energy does. Because we often believe unconsciously that it's going to help, or that it does help in some way. But you might notice that it kind of just stays inside you and doesn't do anything other than make you feel bad and closed and kind of cut off from knowing what to do. So noticing futility of something without even calling it futile, without condemning it, can mean that this thing, whatever it is inside, is kind of highlighted as not as useful as we thought, and it starts to diminish. Often from family members we seek approval and validation, a kind of sense of security that we are worthy or doing well or valuable in some way. We can become dependent on that because we're not aware of the inner peace and life and joy that's actually inside us, as us. Notice if the attention zooms outwards and is kind of trying to get something from someone else, particularly approval or validation, and just see how uncomfortable that is, and again how futile that is. Because if you get it, if you get approval, for example, it might feel good for a short while, but then you'll need it again, or something will change and you won't have it, and then you feel like you need it again. And obviously if you never got it, then you'd just be constantly hunting for it, maybe doing things that aren't natural for you just to get this approval, which is actually already inside of us when we stop seeking it from outside. And be aware of this, you describe them as a toxic person, so a toxic energy kind of wants to infiltrate into other energies, it wants to go into other people and live there. So be aware of something in you that kind of enjoys making a problem out of it, enjoys the suffering, resonates with this person on a kind of a lower frequency. Because really the kind of negativity in someone else, if we feel it really affects us deeply, is just because it hits that same thing within us and kind of activates it. So it's not coming exclusively from the outside. A lot of our reaction and resistance and triggers inside are what causes a lot of pain, and they can get triggered from other energies or other people. So be aware of that, and if it's turbulent inside, be a space for it. Welcome it exactly as it is without wishing it was something different. The more kind of internally feeling you are, and that all your attention isn't completely just lost in the world, but you can feel your own existence, your own being, then things will start to be less personal. You feel the life behind your personality, the existence behind a temporary construct of being a person. And the existence behind, or the stillness, or the being, is not personal, it's not taking things personally. And the more you can feel it, the more it will feel refined and clean and much more immune to kind of the darker energies of people. Get used to feeling just the sense of existence, feeling it, feeling your own presence. But it's really the presence of nature, the presence of the universe, rather than the presence of just a separate self. Be aware of existence itself that spreads through everything. And if there's something I haven't touched on, then feel free to comment below.